At the beginning of the story, it is told that a city named Chester's Mill was just like any other ordinary city. But then, such terrifying and scary events started happening there that the entire city became worse than hell. But after all, what kind of dangerous events started happening there? Let's find out. So, the story begins by showing a named Barbie, actually a guy, who was burying a dead body in the forest. Barbie was not a local resident there, and looking at the injury on Barbie's forehead, it seemed like he must have had a major fight with the person he killed. After burying that man, Barbie starts driving out of the city in his car, but just then, he comes face to face with the sheriff's police car. Seeing him, he gets a little scared, which distracts him from driving. Somehow he escapes the police, but then some cows were standing right in the middle of the road. To save them, Barbie suddenly swerves his car, causing him to end up in a field full of cows. He got a little injured from this. A few seconds later, the ground there starts shaking loudly due to an earthquake. Suddenly, something falls from the sky in front of Barbie, and everything goes silent. A cow had been cut into 2 pieces by that thing falling from the sky. Scared, he starts touching that thing, and he realizes it's an invisible wall that was so sharp that it had cut several houses into 2 parts. On the other side, Sheriff and Linda get news that the power supply of the entire town has been cut off. Phone lines are down, and the internet is not working either. Even all satellites had stopped working. Just then, a plane flying over the city crashes after hitting that invisible wall, seeing which people got even more panicked. And it becomes confirmed that this is not just an invisible wall, but a round-shaped dome, meaning a dome that has covered half the city. On the other side, we see Phil and his assistant Dodie at the radio station, who were trying to get a signal. Both of them were a bit confused about why the signal suddenly went away. Here, Phil thinks it's a good chance to hike their radio ratings. Therefore, both of them get busy fixing the signal. Meanwhile, a fire truck was coming from the other side of the dome. Seeing this, Barbie gestures to the truck driver towards this invisible wall and stops him, saving him from crashing. After a while, some police officers come there to investigate, but understanding this invisible dome was not within their power. At the same time, a city councilman named Big Jim also arrives there, but he also doesn't understand anything about this dome. Here, the police get information that all roads leading towards the city have been closed because many accidents are happening due to that dome. A short distance away at a house, a boy named Junior was getting intimate with a girl named Angie. Angie was a nurse by profession and was also Joe's elder sister. After being intimate, Junior tells Angie that, "I love you very much," but Angie tells him that she doesn't feel anything like that for him. This breaks Junior's heart. An argument starts between the two. Here, their argument increases so much that Angie slaps him and leaves from there. After this, we see a family of 3 people, including Mother Carolyn, Alice, and their daughter Nori, who were going towards that town. They had no idea that a dome had covered that town. On the other side, we see an investigative reporter named Julia, who was very famous in Chester's Mill. One day, a woman calls her to give secret news. That woman tells her that she has seen 6 trucks filled with propane going into Chester's Mill this week, and according to her, such a large quantity of fuel like propane coming into the city could be part of a dangerous plan. Julia promises that woman to investigate this, but being too busy with her work, she is unable to pay attention to it. Meanwhile, Big Jim goes to the radio station and makes an emergency announcement. Carolyn, who is coming to the city with Alice and Nori, hears this announcement, but they think it's some kind of advertisement, so she doesn't pay attention to this announcement, and their car barely misses hitting the dome. Because a truck coming from the other side crashes into the dome, and Carolyn immediately hits the brakes. Seeing such a big incident, Nori starts having seizures, causing her to faint. But before fainting, she says something about a pink star. Now from here, Nori is quickly taken to the hospital, which was full of people injured by the events happening in the town. Meanwhile, Julia and Barbie were bringing injured people to the hospital. Julia's husband was also a doctor in this hospital. She goes to meet him, but at that time, her husband was not in the hospital. In the hospital, Julia finds out that her husband never worked on Sundays, but he had always been lying to Julia. Outside the hospital, we see Barbie and Angie meeting. Seeing both of them together, a different kind of jealousy arises inside Junior. Meanwhile, the town borders are now sealed by soldiers. Many scientists and experts also do not know the real reason for this strange trouble. But after a few hours, Big Jim meets the sheriff to talk about the propane. Here, from their conversation, we find out that they already knew a little bit about this dome, but they were not talking about it openly. Meanwhile, Barbie had to stay in that town for a day, but he had no place to stay, so he decides to spend the night in his car. Just then, Junior comes to him and tells him to stay away from Angie. Slowly, his talk turns into a threat. Barbie is surprised at what exactly is his fault. Meanwhile, Julia arrives there and they stop fighting. From here, the scene shifts, and we see that being careless about the situation of the town, some teenagers were partying at a place. Joe was also among them. Joe starts talking to a boy about the situation there, but suddenly, Joe starts having a seizure and he starts talking about pink stars, just like Nori said before. Meanwhile, Joe's sister Angie is alone at home when suddenly Junior enters her house, kidnaps her, and takes her to his father's broken-down shelter. Here, he tells her that I know about this dome covering the city. Here, Angie also finds out from him that Big Jim is Junior's father. Junior also tells Angie that his father was always worried about the safety of his family. That's why he made this shelter for the family. On the other side, Julia brings Barbie to stay at her house. Then, suddenly, Barbie's eyes fall on her husband's photo, and he realizes that this is the same man he killed in the morning. On the other side, Linda and the sheriff were keeping an eye on all vehicles so that no one accidentally hits this dome. Then, suddenly, the sheriff has a heart attack. We are shown the morning incident in a flashback where Barbie had come to meet Julia's husband, who was a doctor in the town. He talks to him about some payment, but the doctor refuses to give him the payment, due to which a fight breaks out between the two, and accidentally, Barbie shoots him. Barbie knew that even though he killed him by mistake, he would be punished for it, and to avoid this, he buried his body in the forest. In the present, waking up in the morning, Barbie sees that his neck chain is missing, so he asks Julia about it. Julia tells him that she will find his chain and give it to him, but then, Barbie remembers that the chain had fallen in that cabin where he killed her husband. Over there, Joe was with his friend Ben, who had helped him during the seizure last night. Ben asks Joe about the pink star that he said while having the seizure at night, but Joe could not remember anything about it. Meanwhile, in the radio station, Dodie becomes successful in contacting people outside the dome with the help of a special device. She could hear the soldiers talking to each other, but she doesn't say anything to them. There, the soldiers were also confused about what exactly this invisible wall is. On the other side, Big Jim is sitting in a restaurant having breakfast when Linda comes there and gives him the news of the sheriff's death, due to which they immediately go to the person who buries dead bodies in the bunker, whose name was Lester. Over there, Angie tries her best to call someone for help in the shelter, but she is not successful. Then Junior comes there and ties her to the bed using a chain. Meanwhile, Big Jim brings Lester with him, who was a friend of the sheriff. He gets very sad and upset by the sheriff's death. When Linda is not around them, then he and Big Jim talk about the propane import that happened last month, that all three of them were involved in the propane import, and they had hidden this thing from the townspeople. With the sheriff's death, it was confirmed that he would not be able to tell anyone about their involvement, which was also good news for them. Later that same day, when Linda comes to the police station, she sees that Big Jim is looking for something in the sheriff's office. On being asked by Linda, Jim tells her that he is looking for the sheriff's will papers there, but actually, he had come there to find the papers related to the propane import, which could put him and Lester in trouble. He immediately comes out and tells Lester that I think those papers will be in the sheriff's house, to bring which he immediately sends Lester to his house. Meanwhile, Julia quickly goes to Dodie at the radio station, where she sees that they can hear the conversation of the soldiers standing outside the dome through the device. On hearing their talk, Julia finds out that those people are trying to dig the ground and take the dome out, but they are not being successful in this work. After this, Julia spreads the dome news in the entire town through the radio, which creates fear in people, and people get panicked. Meanwhile, Joe and Ben see the scientists doing their work near the border. Scientists see what effect water has on the dome, but they were not understanding much, due to which they could not reach any conclusion. Meanwhile, Joe sees that this dome is like a sieve. He tells Ben that a very small amount of water can pass through this dome. On the other hand, Barbie goes to Julia's husband's, the doctor's cabin, to find his chain. He finds his chain there, but then Junior arrives there and sees him. He asks him, "Did you sleep with Angie?" Here, Barbie feels that perhaps he saw him looking for the chain, and therefore he could not let Junior go from there just like that. That's why he starts beating Junior very badly. We see that Lester, reaching the sheriff's house, starts looking for the propane import papers. After some time, he finds those papers in the drawer. Then he burns them. When he starts to leave from there, his foot hits the papers, and the fire from the papers catches the curtains of the house, due to which the flames spread throughout the entire house, and the whole house starts burning. Seeing this, soon many people gather and try to put out the fire, but without a fire truck, it was impossible to put out the fire. If those people let the house burn, the temperature inside the dome would increase a lot, which could also lead to people's deaths. Therefore, everyone gets together to put out the fire. Barbie leads the people in putting out the fire. Then Linda hears the sounds of Lester screaming from inside the house. She goes inside, brings him out unconscious, and sends him to the doctor for treatment. Here, people do not get success in putting out the fire even after an hour. On the contrary, the fire flares up more. Finally, Jim brings a loader and knocks down the house. Only then, the fire calms down. After this, all the tired people gather. Among them, a policeman named Paul says in frustration that we all will never be able to get out of this dome because this dome is not letting the smoke that came out of the fire go out. He says that we all are going to die inside this dome. Saying this much, he fires a shot in the air, which hits another police officer after hitting the dome, and he dies immediately. Here, Paul is arrested. When it gets dark, Joe and his friends go for skating. Then Nori comes to Joe and tells him that she has to charge her phone. Joe takes her to his house because there was a generator in his house, which was only in a few selected houses of that town. Over there, Linda brings Paul to jail. Some people were protesting outside the police station. Actually, those people were protesting against the police's poor system. Jim calms them all down by saying that they will be helped if needed. After being locked up, Paul has a heart attack, due to which Linda runs inside to help him, but then she finds out that Paul was only acting like he was having an attack. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Paul pushes her, locks her in the lockup, and runs away from there. Here in the bunker, Junior again goes to Angie. Angie had understood that if she wanted to get out of there, she would have to trap Junior in a fake trap. She shares her childhood memories with him when they both used to go into a closed tunnel and says that maybe the dome has no effect on the tunnel, so they can go out. Here, Angie thinks that now he is trapped in the trap of her love, so maybe he will leave her, but nothing like that happens. Junior plans to go into that tunnel alone. Meanwhile, when Jim comes to the police station, he sees Linda locked in the lockup instead of Paul. He immediately takes her out of the lockup. They find out that Paul has gone taking a rifle and some bullets with him. Linda immediately goes into the jungle to search for him because she knew that Paul often used to go towards the jungle for hunting. Meanwhile, Jim prepares a team to catch Paul. Over there, Carolyn, sitting in the restaurant, was worried about Nori because she had stayed at Joe's house last night without telling both her mothers. Meanwhile, Jim tells people to join his team to search for Paul. He also tells Barbie to go with them because he proved to be a good leader in putting out the fire. After this, those people start going into the jungle. On the way, Barbie, showing his qualities, tells them that he has also been in the military. Meanwhile, on the other side, Julia sees Junior going towards the tunnel, stops him, and asks where he is going with a backpack. But Junior was in a great hurry, and he was nervous too. He says that I am just going to meet my friend nearby. This makes Julia's suspicion of him even more, and she reaches the tunnel following him. Over there, Joe and Nori were having breakfast together. Joe had never been alone with a girl before, so he was feeling a little nervous, while Nori was confident and was also quick-witted in conversation. Then Ben comes to his house with two girls who had to charge their phones. To impress them, Ben had to use the generator, for which Joe gives Ben permission a bit reluctantly, because a generator was a very useful thing in that town, and using it like this didn't seem right to him. Meanwhile, in the jungle, we see that the search team finds Paul, but at the same time, Paul shoots a girl in the leg. Another boy stops there to handle her, while Jim and Barbie run after Paul. On the other side, Junior reaches the last end of the tunnel, where after reaching, he finds out that the dome has covered the tunnel too. He reaches very close to the wall, due to which his torch starts burning. Then Julia comes there and warns him. Seeing Julia, Junior gets angry because she was following him. Because of this, Junior starts punching that invisible wall like a madman, which Julia stops him from doing. Then both sit down and start talking. Julia tells him that because of a mistake made in her past, she has got stuck in this useless job of a journalist. Over there, Joe's house gets filled with people who had come to use his generator for their respective needs. A bad boy tries to collect money from people in exchange for using the generator, which was not even his, but no one had the courage to speak against him. Seeing this, Nori moves forward to handle everything. But the matter gets even more heated. But before anything wrong could happen, the lights go out. Nori is very happy that Joe supported her in the argument. Meanwhile, in the jungle, Barbie and Jim reach Paul, but Paul had taken out his rifle, with which he was about to kill Jim when suddenly Linda comes from behind and shoots him. On the other side, Carolyn goes to Joe's house and meets her daughter Nori. She tells Nori that she should become a little responsible. Hearing her scolding, Joe and Nori hold each other's hands, which creates a strange spark, and at the same time, both start having seizures. Both of them were talking about some pink star together. Over there, Junior goes to Angie in the shelter, but this time he had a first aid kit in his hand. Angie applies ointment and bandage on his wounds and secretly keeps the scissors with her. Meanwhile, we see that Julia and Barbie return home after the exhaustion of the day. But after hearing Junior's words, Julia had started doubting Barbie, and when Barbie goes to take a shower, Julia starts checking his belongings. If you liked this video, please surely subscribe to the channel and also press the bell icon so that more such videos reach you. Thanks for watching.